Mm. That's your toddler's lesson plan class. Oh, so not yet. But did she grade it? Because I so called, I turned it in with the reflection, and then I she did grade it. The one when you missed track of one, that one. Did you do that one? Yes. You presented? No. Mhm. Did you grade anyone that one yet? Not yet, right? The chocolate one? I'm not sure. Shut. Oh, let me. Is that one right there? The chart? Find the little one by the projector. Daddy? I think this is one. You look like it. Look at you. Do you have chemicals today? No, I think that we finished them last. Okay. I finished. That's all. I mean, I was doing. No, I regret it. I'm missing you out of parties. Yeah. I don't know, everything in the morning was so just family routine, and then next thing you know, this girl's birthday that we know she invited us like prior, but we didn't think we were gonna go out, so we did. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna drink a lot, and, you know, it's Sunday. Oh my God, everything just went so south as soon as like it started like falling. Oh no. And I didn't, you know, I was like, seltzer, like, but, and like, actually now I woke up maybe like at 12, and I didn't get up to like 3 and I was like, I don't know what to do. And then everything's in the south. We have everything in the yeah. We didn't do anything. We rushed our presentation. We not. I was like,
Then they, you presented and then you watched the movie, no?
yeah, but that was like, you watched the movie? Yeah, like why would I wish I like was it like a movie like
There's a documentary.
yeah, it's just about math. And it literally only talked about like math, majority of like higher grade. I'm like, guys, it's just little kids, like watching a movie.
Did she make you sign in? No?
I mean, well, she's her class. Did you do the German stuff? Yeah. Yeah, I don't think yeah. I never just like how's everybody? I'm sitting in different seats today. Kind of confusing. I'm sitting at the dinner table, right? Now you always sit in the same seat at your dinner table. Yeah. Yeah. Right, right. Right, exactly. Washroom, and let's see which computer I get working today. And I had the same problem in my other class last week. Somebody like messed around with the settings. I think it's important today. This one morning I was like, yeah, I wasn't even. And I was like, I thought
Oh.
the way I'm okay now. Yeah. Like I'm just gonna get anything. I was like, oh my gosh. It's so weird, like I didn't know how to work. Last week, I didn't have class. I'll never have it. Or just anywhere in the room, as long as it's under the bed. Yes. And I'm like, the room. Yeah. This one. Do you know what the strawberry store? Like it looks like it's in the inquiry. What? I swear she wasn't saying anything. Like, no, but yeah, she said no the last time. No, I wasn't here. Before that, she was like, yeah, she was signing her. Then the last time she's like, wait, I wasn't out.
But won't we be at the museum, the nature place?
No, that's.
Is it this Wednesday, class? Or the other one later at night, right?
Yes.
But we have the field trip over to that place this Wednesday.
Yeah. So I'll be like, someone will do that tonight tomorrow. Yeah. I mean, I'm.
And then we don't know what did she say what time we're gonna double class?
No, I finished next week.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Were you planning on presenting your toddler lesson plan tonight?
Yes, if possible.
Did you change it at all from what you originally submitted? Do you remember?
Not really yet.
Okay. I don't know if so you're supposed to present yours and Acacia is supposed to present hers. I'm not sure if we'll have time. Okay. Because there's something else we have to do
Mhm.
first, but I can let you know
Mhm.
later. And then if you don't have time, we can figure something else
Yeah,
out.
okay.
Okay? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I'll see you tomorrow.
I got my.
Oh, 27B.
Yeah, I got my clinical.
I'll see. Oh, really? I was wondering about that.
First time.
So you still have to take it.
I wanted to the portfolio, but Dr. Lopez had already said I'd sign up for the summer. It's like. That's approved. I'll have 24 hours.
Ooh.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense?
No, I mean, they're,
It's a new man.
I mean, I had no offer.
It's me.
I'm excited. Yeah.
Yeah, I would inquire about that.
Okay.
I can ask around too. I can ask Lindsay. I had a student. I had a student who took a part of her hours, like you, it's like exactly the same as you. Her hours were paid 50 hours were paid. And then I believe she had all of the.
Okay, let me look this.
So. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, or, yeah. So. I used mine, right, but I plugged it in. I was talking to myself, but I appreciate the participation.
I'll do it.
I need the assistance. My kids would say it from stuff. Make myself organized. Yes. How's everybody doing? Great. Start just.
I don't think. I'm not really for.
So happy right now. So happy. I really didn't think that was gonna work. Okay. I can breathe a sigh of. Okay. Hi, everybody. Are you ready? You ready? How's everybody feeling? I know we're week 12, right? So 12 or week 13, yeah, depending. Everybody okay? You're getting down to the end. How many of you have finished your clinicals already? Okay. Yeah, I think it's about, I think just a few people have finished and most everyone else will be finishing very soon. So today what we'll do, we will, and I did bring something. We will, of course, reflect on your clinical experiences, thinking about endings, you know, and some of you have ended already, and some of you will be leaving soon. Some of you work there.
I mean, I am leaving it.
Right. You'll leave the other room.
No, like leaving.
Oh, you're leaving? Wait, what?
Like I'm gonna stop working there. Maybe this to.
Oh, you said that before.
Yeah.
But you things
Focus
going
on
right.
web planning.
Yes, priorities, that's right. So you plan, are you gonna go there?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Since I am having my second clinical fall.
Right, and it's one, that'll be 100 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good for you. All right, so we'll do some reflecting on your clinicals and your work experiences. And then we're gonna look at the ages and stages questionnaires. And I think last time we were together, some of you said you are familiar with ages and stages or ages and stages, social, emotional. So who's familiar? Who's familiar? Yeah. I thought we had a few people. So, well, I'm just going to give you an overview of those screening tools, and then we'll see how time is permitting. I have some sample tools for you to score as well. So we'll look at that. So and then we'll look at next steps for our final weeks, because they are indeed together. Any questions? Anything? Okay. All right. So let's see. Oh, I'm so happy I got this on. So we'll look at ages and stages questionnaire. I've got a couple slides in there as well about early intervention. And of course, you will be working today to earn the hours. And I'll say to you what I said to the last class, the class last week, our other section. If you go home today and you think about one of those topics, early intervention or ages and stages, for a few moments after you leave here today, guess what? You're going to have 5 hours of the topics. Yeah, don't look surprised. Don't question it. So for ASQ and early intervention, you will, after today, you will put in 5 hours. Now I noticed, I looked at people's hours in Watermark today, your infant toddler hours, or even your total clinical hours, it looks like some of you are going to be over 100, and you shouldn't be. You really, just like I thought, like there were a few people. You really shouldn't be, especially in your preschool clinical. It's very important for your preschool, and maybe I'm wrong by saying it this way, but this is my understanding. For the preschool clinical, Northeastern has a liability insurance agreement with each school and childcare center that they're working on. The liability insurance specifies students are there no more than 50 hours. So if you're there more than 50 hours, it's a liability issue. Okay, so that's why it's really important you do 50 hours. For the infant toddler hours, because we've been doing everything in class or on your own, if you go a little bit over, my guess is it's okay, but really you should be at 100. So you might want to look at your hours, the 5 hours you're earning today. If you're at 96, for example, you can really just put in 4 hours. That makes sense? Sense? Oh. Oh, okay. All right, yeah. I mean, I won't, if it's infant toddler hours that put you over 100, I probably won't reject it, as we wrap up and finish up. But you do make sure with your preschool hours, you're at 50. Okay, so let's do some reflecting as we're getting to the end of the semester. I ask if everybody please close your laptops so we can all talk with each other. So here's some prompts that you may or may not choose to follow for our discussion today. It's up to you. What's your favorite memory or takeaway from your preschool clinic experience? How are you, unless you've done it already, how did you prepare yourself for your last day? And yeah, you have a big last day. You're leaving the whole place. And is there anything else that you would like to share about your experience? So you can respond to those prompts or not. Okay. All right, so let's all share. See, people, like I said, they're moving around. I think I know your names already. Otherwise, that's how I learn everybody's names. I memorize what everybody says. Sometimes I didn't do it with this class. Sometimes I actually draw a seating chart. People, it's very predictable. It's like I said, at home, at dinner, right? We all have our seats at dinner, at the dinner table, except today, you're all doing some of you are doing different things. So yeah, but that's okay, I know. All right, so if you have a favorite memory or takeaway from your clinical, I would love to hear about it. I'm sure your classmates would also love to hear about it. If you already had a last day or you're preparing for your last day, maybe you haven't prepared at all. That's okay. What are you thinking about with that? And is there anything else you want to share? As we're getting to our final week. Some of you are just wrapped up too. So who wants to start? Okay.
All right, so for me, so I'm still working at the school that I did preschool at. So for me now, seeing them when they were like 4 or 5 years old, and now I see them in second grade and still remember me.
Yeah.
That maturity, but knowing and everything, like, oh my god, I know it. Oh, like having those special moments, like, yeah, I still know your name, you know, because I'm like that's really cool to see them.
Yeah. And how do you think that makes them feel?
Well, the one she's always surprised at someone for but like they're really excited, like it makes them feel special. Every time we're so happy, like
Right.
for just looking at a chocolate cake. I'm like, you have that chocolate cake.
And as you're saying that, Justine, it's making me think, hopefully I hope you do have more than one teacher, but if you think back to your career as a student, that you have many more than one teacher, but at least one teacher that really made you feel special or really supported you. I see nods. I hope it's true. I hope it's more than one, because all children, all students do deserve that. And if you do have that experience in your own life as a student, think about it. Think about how it made you feel and what this teacher, coach, neighbor, whoever, what this person did to support you in your success. And take that to your everybody needs that. I was at a conference once, working with Head Start programs, South Side, Southwest Side, Chicago, people who live in those neighborhoods. And this woman, she was an amazing inspirational speaker, but she did this exercise with these teachers who were 21 years old to, I think, 71 or years old, about thinking about their favorite teachers. And I have to tell you, at least half the people in the room started crying because they didn't have, they did not have a favorite teacher. And that was also why that motivated them to become that. But it was so simple, you know. So I hope you've all had that. That's you make me think about. And you're also making me think about, even though, you know, if you are working with infants or toddlers, or even the learning you've been doing in here about infants and toddlers, even though they may not be real children, you know, I think it just helps you to think of what's foundational. And then, you know, moving to preschool, kindergarten, and beyond, and what comes next. And I think you're living that, right? Yeah. That's a good feeling. That's got to be so great for those kids.
I mean, I thought so. I look forward to saying them.
Yeah. And you live in that community, right? So you run into people at the grocery store. Yeah.
Yeah, and in the basement, like, we don't exist on that school.
Exactly. Exactly. Right. Right. But yeah, that's a beautiful thing. It really is.
Especially when they're with their parents, and they're like, oh, she's
Right. But yeah. Thank you for sharing. Who wants it? Should I just go down? Oh, wait, I saw it again. All right. Let me- Right.
And I stayed there a little, like, 4 hours. To complete my, but yeah,
That's okay.
that was
That's okay.
great. And then I also just made sure to have moments where I can have a conversation with my assistant, just like side, you know, how was the progress, like just for like time, just stretch and like observing that every, and then I also, that was just me because they're the first kids I've ever been with, like bathroom, so I walked up like little like small, you know, that
Yeah. Yeah.
I put them in the book. I just basically said bye to them. Even like let them say, oh, she's the stay. So they were like, what's this? Like, where are you going? And so we just had that. That's basically how it came. I was really grateful for they had this conversation. Gave me a book for my conversation feature.
That's great.
Very sweet. If someone wanted, yeah. So
You learned a lot from him,
yeah,
you know, and I think I think it's two ways. I think number one, he was a good cooperating teacher, and he gave you feedback, and he was very intentional with you. I also think you were very intentional with what you were observing and what you tried on.
so this is how I feel for the last
Yeah.
day.
How did it feel?
It was, I was a little bit of bittersweet. I feel
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I was like
Yeah.
really just happy that I got this experience.
Yeah.
And then it's also like, oh, I'm not gonna see them anymore. So I kind of feel like, oh, it's like a little sad.
Yeah.
But now I look forward to the my next kind of potential.
Yeah. Oh,
next
yeah.
week. So
Oh, you start this week?
Yeah.
Where will you be?
I'll be at Beard.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a popular school.
That's
for
a
us.
popular-
So, every,
Yeah.
are you, what age are you with?
Um,
Oh, what's it?
Jane. I was Jane.
Oh, you told me that before, didn't you? I remember this. Okay. Well, they're trying to, yeah, you're just like, you're just trying to get a lot of,
I do. Well,
Well, they want.
That's a really cool school.
Here?
Yeah, like a lot of people here do.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so, yeah, I think they really are advocating for getting clinical students and student teachers.
I know all the we're like, oh, we got pictures. So then we were like, this cardboard. Here.
Parking is not great, yeah. Parking is not great in a lot of this.
Yeah. But yeah, I think this can help prepare me for my next designer,
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And then I'm also like the open minded. I'm new teacher.
And to me, that was really the overall goal of this clinical.
Mhm.
So you must feel good.
Yeah.
You should. Okay, all right, so who did I see your hands next? Okay.
I'm just really happy I was able to get some other things over.
Yeah. Right.
But on the other hand, people like approach for help or questions. And they're always excited to like tell me about me or go to the doctor, the
Mhm.
nurses, things like that. And my last thing will be on 30th, so I still have a couple more days. So I'll have to see what my teacher wants. 'Cause I feel like she might have talked to them before my last day, so
Yeah.
Mm.
so yeah. Excited to just go to
Yeah. Right. You don't have to do a lesson plan, you don't have to be observant, right, you're right. And again, I think we've talked about this before, but it is pretty amazing that the short period of time, these 50 hours that you're with these students, how you build relationships. So that's pretty amazing. And the next one will be 100 hours. So you'll be in the classroom, probably 2 days, 2.5 days. That's what it translates to. Great, great. Yep. Want to share next? All right, Julia.
I'd say mine is pretty similar to like the developmental, like, because my classroom's right next door
Right.
to the classroom that I'm at. So, and these are probably the kids I'll get like next year. It's just fun to see the difference between my kids
Yeah.
and her kids, and just how different they are. Like they're close in age, like they're 4 and my class is 5, but they're
Oh, so I didn't realize they were a year younger than your class. So your
Yeah.
class will go to kindergarten and they'll go to you.
and her,
Oh, I didn't realize that.
yeah.
Okay.
My classroom's the oldest. So.
Okay.
But yeah, so hers are like freshly 4, and then mine are like
Okay.
freshly 5.
Right.
And some of them are almost 6. But it's just like cool to see like how much changes in that short amount of time. It really makes you realize that what we're doing is important, and all these little things like they grow so much
Yeah.
in such short time.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it's pretty cool.
What's
yeah.
one difference that you've seen?
The way that they speak, the way they form their sentences, the way they communicate with their friends. They still rely heavily on their teachers. And I think my kids still won't. I really want them to be independent. Like, I'm gonna talk to your friend about it.
Well, it's April.
Yeah.
Hold on, everybody.
It is
It's
April.
April. They're going to
Yeah,
kindergarten.
it is April. But like,
So,
I sit there and I like watch like Christina and Teresa like talk to these kids. Like, like I just don't do that anymore. It's just fun. The difference.
Yeah.
So I guess like the way that they communicate
that's
and the way
a
that
good
they
point.
speak, like they call me Miss Jula. Like that just always stuck. Like I think they can pronounce my name now, but at the beginning of the year they called me Miss Jula.
Yeah.
So now that's what they call me, and I'm like, I wonder if that's gonna stick when they come to my class. But yeah, I don't. I always think that's like the developmental part. Like that's always my favorite part. Like learning about that at school, what they're doing, work,
And seeing it in action.
That's not always my favorite part. I just like how I remember all this stuff. It's like because I'm working and going to school at the same time, and I can really like see it. So I always thought that was.
That's my favorite. And, yeah, that's why I feel fortunate.
Yeah.
Really, making it real. Yeah, and it's great that those kids will be in your room next year.
Yeah. Some of them, so like the older of them will go to my classroom, and then the younger of them
We'll stay in there.
We'll go to my grandma's classroom.
Oh,
Or the other.
wait, so how are the classrooms divided up?
We have 2 4 and 5-year-old classrooms.
Okay.
Half of the other classroom, some of them graduate and some of them don't. Majority of them do, but like if they're too young or if they be held back, then they'll come to me the next year. All of my kids graduate every time.
Okay. So you have the kids.
I have the
all
older,
turn 5
the older 4 and 5.
before kindergarten, before September.
Yeah. So all my kids are 5 right now.
Okay.
I think the other classroom has 1 or 2 friends.
And
I think they have 3 friends that are not graduating, and 1 parent is trying to get her kid to grad. Like she's gonna take like a special test and stuff to get
Yeah.
her
Mm.
to see. So
Yeah. When's the birthday here?
I don't.
Yeah.
But I know it's not good for her to go. She's not ready. But her mom really wants her. So,
I had that similar experience.
yeah. And she's like listing off all these reasons why. And I'm like, these are not good reasons. Like, in fact, those are like reasons to keep her here. She's like, well, her sister did. Her sister always talks to the teachers. Like, always like.
All about
Always
this.
it's her sister's doing this and her sister does that, but her sister's like really clinging to the teachers because her sister's too young to be with the friends that or her peers that she has. So it's like if you push them too hard.
Yeah.
And then she's also just like social.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, we all want to think our own children are good. But yeah, you want to look for the whole child.
Yeah.
One family, I don't even know how this struck me years ago, but same thing. One, I think their girl, her birthday was in November, December, one for sure.
Yeah.
And at that time, I don't think they were testing. You know, they were testing because either they let them in or they don't. And I remember saying to mom and dad, I said, all right, you're sitting here, you're thinking about kindergarten, how she's going to do in kindergarten. I want you to fast forward and go to puberty. I said, think about when they're in 6th, 7th, 8th grade and in high school. Do you really want her with the older kids then? Or would you like to give her the gift of another year? You know, right? Right? Yeah, because I mean, I think that's what happens. They think about kindergarten.
Yeah. But yeah, so we still teach like pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
Like we have the same curriculum and the same like end goal by the end of the year, but if they are too young.
Yeah. I mean, you know, when my old program, we had a 2-year-old class, a 3-year-old class, and a 4-year-old class. And they did similar things in the classes. And I think sometimes the teachers of the older kids would get upset with the teachers of the younger kids. But I said, I think it's okay because every time you do it, there's a different focus or there's a more ambitious focus and you're bringing some other pieces into it. So I think, yeah. But I think it's really good that you're seeing that comparison. I mean, you're literally going from.
It's super fun. Yeah. And it's nice, especially for our kids that have like disabilities and stuff that are more severe because our classrooms are connected. So like I peek in there and I'm always in there and they have a safe, we don't. So we're always like in and out. And I'm friends with them, so I like come in, I chat, or I do like my clinicals there.
Right.
So it's like easier for the kids like who might have a hard time transitioning because I'm not like a fresh face, like they know me and they see me and they hear me.
There's value in it.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the transition's a little easier.
Yeah.
For some
There's
kids.
value.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Like we already have a relationship where they so
right. Well, you know, like even Justine seeing these kids, even if you don't teach them, I mean, I think, you know, what's the part of the beauty of it is, you know, we're saying goodbye to kids, right? You say goodbye. Separations are hard. Some separations are planned and expected, and we know how life is. Some are not. Some are unexpected. And for children, for sometimes to say goodbye to somebody, but then get to see them again, even if it's in another context, like even, you know, you going from your toddler room to the preschool room, it's a beautiful thing. Yeah. Yeah, very nice. That's good. That's been a good experience. Yeah. All right, who wants to share next? Okay. Now.
I would say my part of building the connection. I feel like they want to be question.
like, what about me? But,
Now, these are kids, because you were with them before? Is that-
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then whenever my like hours are done, I have to go back to the classroom. Like, where are you going? Take my test. But yeah, I feel like I don't know how I'm gonna tell them that I'm gonna leave in like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Sad.
So, I mean, how's that feel for you?
Um, I don't know. I don't know how I feel, but because I did leave the same way my first daycare, it was hard. Like I was thinking about those kids. Like today, for example, I went to Costco and I saw one of my old kid students in the first daycare, and they didn't remember. It was sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and sometimes as you say that, make me think about, and I've had teachers that I worked with younger ones, like the two, the threes, where they felt like they put all the work for the children, but they didn't always see the results.
Yeah.
The teachers when the kids get older. Yeah, but that's okay, but you're leaving for a very exciting reason too. How long have you worked there?
2 years.
Oh, good for you. New chapter. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Next. Okay. Yeah. Well,
We had a discussion. I don't know what we were like. Oh, like we had a thing. We were like, I think it was like the box. Like, they were like, oh, it's like, and we teach from the top. Of course, like, it would be a nice gift for them to like, it was the first thing. Yeah, so it's like, okay, it would be nice to give them a first experience.
yeah.
So I tried to find that into my goodbye gift, and
Oh, nice.
I told them the week before that the following week would be my last, just so they kind of have an idea that leaving school. And they were actually like asking a bunch of questions. And they were like, oh, are you going back to college? Because every time I leave, it's like right before their nap time. So they say, where are you going? And I'm like, oh, I have like college later on, so I have to leave.
Right.
So when I told them that I was going to be the last speaker, are you going back to college? And I told them like, yeah, actually I'm done because I'm gonna go for like another clinical be a teacher. And it kind of stuck with them. They're saying like when they're saying goodbye, they were like, have fun being a teacher. And, like,
Why did you say that? Like, they memorized my schedule. Like when I used to come to school, they're like, "Oh, Mondays, Miss Julia leaves after nap."
They know.
On Wednesdays and Thursdays, she leaves too. Like, there's
They
one kid
know.
that like she's got it down. So all the kids are like, "Is Miss Julia leaving today?" She's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." It's like they know that stuff.
They do know this. Sounds like you prepared them well.
like it was like,
Mhm.
they started coming because like a couple of girls group like a little beside like picture and they told like they saw it coming, but then they thought they were like, we're gonna miss you, and then like all our stuff. So I guess like they're accepting that transition, like they've seen it, but it's like take a while.
And they're very concrete thinkers. So, maybe in about 2 weeks or 3 weeks, be like, wait a minute.
And I don't know, like you said, like they're every week they're like, oh, it's what comes today, like what's easy, so, but they don't really know. They know the
Right.
names of it. They don't
Right.
know, like today's Tuesday, so
Right.
so they just say that someone's coming today, and then she'll say, no, she's coming up there. She's like the next day, is she coming today? Like they're constantly waiting to see me. So I don't know how it would be this week. Like not showing up again.
Right.
But
I go back.
Okay. Good. Yeah. Well, clearly you built that relationship with them. Pretty amazing.
We were sitting on the road before you had come to observe it, and the student was like, "You guys like make sure we're on the best behavior because Miss Anna's teacher is coming." And they look at me and they're like, "I'm a teacher," and I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "You're a teacher who has a teacher."
You blows their mind.
My kids do the same thing, and they're
Right.
like, "Oh, you're going to school." Like they know I'm going to college and stuff. Well, why are you going to college? What do you want to be when you grow up? And I'm like, teacher, and they're like, but you are a teacher. And I'm like, yeah, like, but I can teach more. Like, if I go to school, I learn more things that I can teach you guys.
That's good. That's a good response. Last semester, I had a kid and one of my students at 327A I was observing, and a kid came up to me and said, Miss So-and-so's doing a really good job. Yeah, right. That's like, you're a teacher? Wait, what? You have a teacher? Right. Love it.
Because we were at their other, like, so we had 4 teachers in the classroom, and they were like just kind of 4 teachers in the classroom, and they were gonna have another teacher, and I was just like, yeah, that's my teacher. That's what's me, and then
Right.
how many teachers are there? And then after you left, because actually one of them was practicing like because she's like she's knows her numbers pretty well, so now they're really paid for her. We're getting her information, and she came to me. She was like,
That's very good. That's very good.
so it was so funny because they're just amazed. That's
Yeah.
Mhm.
You're adults, right? You're adults in those classrooms, right? Well, it's like seeing you at the grocery store or something. What are you doing? Mandy, do you want to share?
Yeah, sure. Um, when I was there last week, it felt like when I was there, because it's like every week's kind of similar in the way the classroom is. Um, the it started to like feel like I'm like used to the way the classroom is by now,
Sure.
the format, and um yeah, and yeah, and next week's my last week, and tomorrow I'm doing the presentation for you, and I might try to tell them that next week's my last week there.
Will they see because
In the cross,
different
across from them.
last day next week? Will they still see you sometimes? Will they see you like out on the playground?
For me, I'm in the classroom across.
Right.
They have still called the in gym indoor play like 10 something to 11. So like if they're not going to the gym or going outside to the other park, the little playground, they get to see me. They will see me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So next week.
yeah, that's Tuesday.
Ask you want to share.
yeah, that's kind of down. That's something
Sure. Sure.
Mm.
We can talk.
but with the takeaways from so it's dual language classroom, and
Right.
I was like, that's so great. Um, I feel this may be a hot take, but I feel that in the school that I'm looking at, more school for English language learners than there is, or than there was language schools that I
Okay.
they have teachers who speak the language, they have like little translation written on the table. They have books and books. See,
Yeah. So let me ask you this, in this dual language classroom, how does the teacher organize or decide when she's speaking English or Spanish, or does she just kind of coach shift system? Like, what does she do? I'm just, because all the classrooms I've been in that are dual language, I've seen so many different ways of doing it.
yeah. So she usually speaks in English,
but there's one student I think who understands better in Spanish. So whenever she's talking directly to that student, they'll actually I think all of the teachers in that classroom speak Spanish.
Okay,
So
good.
she's speaking Spanish.
Okay. Yeah, because, yeah, last semester I was in a room. It was in a preschool room, but they spoke, everybody in the room, they were bilingual, they were English language learners. And they spoke Spanish until a certain time of day, and then I think she actually rang a bell and sang a song, and then the rest of the day they spoke in English, which was fascinating. It was real, and I don't know, that's not my area of expertise. It's made me curious the last few years in all these dual language classrooms I've been in, because I've seen so many different things. I don't know if that was the best way or the most effective way. However, I will say I like how she made the transition, because she was very explicit. And then I think there was one or two children who she still had to speak Spanish. But that was, just interesting. Anyone else seen anything similarly or differently? Yeah.
In my first day here, it was 3 teachers, so 3 of us in the classroom. The 2 teachers, Spanish. So during circle time, they were singing songs.
Yeah, that's another area. Yeah, it's just interesting. Yeah, I think there's a lot of different models out there, but it's good. It opened your eyes up to all of these different resources. Yeah, nice, very nice. Diana, do you want to share?
I think my favorite thing is probably like the relationship I built with the kids too. Some days when I took her, they're like, well, like, are you okay? And then like at the end of the week, like after my 2 weeks that I'm not there, they're like, we're gonna miss you, like they hug me and stuff. Luckily I'm doing my TESOL clinical with them too. So
I didn't realize that.
I'm
Okay.
staying
Oh,
with Kathleen.
nice.
That's nice.
I'm gonna be there till the end of the week.
Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah.
The continuity is that nice.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Half of it morning with my regular kids and then half of it with the afternoon kids all before 5.
Okay. Have you been with the afternoon kids before?
No, Thursday. First.
Okay. Oh, good. Okay. And are they, is one group younger than the other?
No, they're both preschool. They're
Okay.
because they're just half day preschool.
Right, so then the 3 is turning 4. Right. Oh, it's really good. Good, okay. All right, any other thoughts from your clinicals that anyone want to share? Before we shift? When I went for my bachelor's degree, I didn't go into education because, to be honest with you, I didn't want to go into education. I was a human services, be a shot right here. I was a human service. I thought I wanted to be a social worker, but so I had to do practicum experiences, and I ended up doing them in school settings. And I remember one of my, kind of like all of you, one of my first ones or my second one. I loved those kids so much, and it was the same thing that I was giving out. Do not do this. I was giving out my phone number and my address. They were inviting me to birthday parties. I was going to, it was as hard to say goodbye, right? I'd go to their birthday parties. It was fun. I was working with kids and kids of my own, but yeah, it was just,
And she was like, I just wanted to connect with you.
oh my gosh. Oh my
Mhm.
Adorable puppies.
Yes, they are. They're adorable. They're very honest, right? They're very honest. Which could be kind of funny. All right, so we're gonna make a shift. If you want to stretch, anyone want to stretch, come up and have a snack. And we're gonna move on to talking about the 8 states questionnaire. And I want everyone, we'll take a quick little break. What, if there is. And it's not, we can't,
I was really here.
Yeah.
she's very. And 2 weeks, I don't. Sure.
Mhm.
Or we could have to do one. Or a lot of.
Oh.
Yeah.
Let's see, I'm not, yeah, let's see. And then we can talk. What's your picture? Okay. All right. No, I mean. Yeah. Get it? Right, right. And very. Another one, 162. This is usually how. Deb is very, well versed in skyline. Okay, I'm not. Like, very. Okay. Well, although, honestly, I don't, sometimes my official. Good to know, at least I know my name. I like that my name. They didn't forget me. That's funny. I should have, that's usually how I find out. But one gives us an A and one says B. Okay, all right, good to know. Yeah, it could still change. Okay, I don't know, but, that's fine. Yeah. I'm gonna give just a couple of moments.
I know, Amber. Someone had a very, long night.
We had a very good Easter night.
Yeah.
He's gonna go with that.
Yeah.
Shall I proceed? Yeah, okay. All right, so we're going to look at the ages and stages questionnaire, SQ3, and the ages and stages, questionnaire SE, which is social emotional. They are two different tools. I know I asked before, a couple more people in comments asked, how many of you are familiar with one or both of those tools? Okay, so, all right, so what do you know, what's your experience, for those of you who know? So Justine, what do you know, pediatricians use them too. Oh, okay. Okay, so you're a pediatrician, did it. Okay, all right, other people work related? I know you're chewing, I know, I see.
Sorry.
I saw you chewing, that's why I didn't call on you. All right, Nancy?
Yeah. Like,
Right.
so I would hear about the questionnaire. And
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, good, good. What, Julia, did you raise your? No. Wait, don't show you.
Yeah. My first daycare, there was 2 3-year-old.
Yeah.
It was like the missionary I said from out having like football, like the
Yeah.
of the thing,
Mhm.
like march on the day, did give them to our director, and she would tell.
So, so these tools, they are both screening tools. If you work in a Head Start, so that's 3 to 5-year-olds, or an early Head Start, birth to age 3 program, they are required to use these tools within the first 45 days of enrollment. So if a child begins, July 1st, you have to count 45 days. Many children, of course, begin in the fall, just like in a public school system. And, sometime in October is the first 45 days. CPS also uses the ASQ. I think they use the ASQ and the ASQS in preschool. Same thing, that they have to do it within the first 45 days. CPS uses a few other screening tools in addition to this one during the first 45 days. So for preschool, I know you all have been in CPS preschools the second part of the year, but there's the ASQ, there's the early screening inventory, there's the kids assess. So there's a lot of different tools they use that are all considered screening tools that they use at the beginning of the year. I think as Nancy described, so the ASQ and the SE are very flexible tools. Parents can fill it out. Other caregivers, maybe a grandparent watching the children, neighbor watching the children, teachers watching the children, they can fill it out. And you could also adapt the tool. Maybe there's an item in the tool that's not going to be scored for some reason. One thing that I will always remember from a training video I saw, there, you may adapt it for culture. For example, on the ASQ SE, there is a question about, does the child give eye contact? Many of us know that when children don't give eye contact, that can be considered a red flag. Doesn't mean they're autistic, but that can be considered a red flag. We take note of it. In a training video I saw, however, many years ago, a child was not giving eye contact, and the person scoring was reviewing the result of the parents. The father explained to the social worker that in our family's culture, children do not look at adults when they're speaking to them. They're taught to look down. So that's why. So of course, then it's no longer a concern. I have worked with some early Head Start programs that have used the tools as they're intended. I have sometimes seen, which was made me very sad, sometimes, well, this is part makes me sad, but sometimes they would have the family fill it out. Sometimes the teachers would fill it out, and then they compare the two. The sad part, in some situations, some centers that I work with, they would look at what the parents wrote, they would look at what they scored or wrote. These parents don't know. Which is such a disrespectful way of viewing working with families. And let's remember, we are with these children for a very limited time. Families are with them for a lot longer than we are, and a lot more, many more years than we are. So I think there are ways to get parent input, family input. We may differ in what we see. Could be very good reason for that, but that's why you have to come together. And the other thing that's very flexible about the ASQ and the SE, you with the family and maybe with some other professionals, depending on the situation, you together will determine, what do we do next? Are we concerned about the child enough where we're going to recommend further evaluation? That's a possibility. Are we going to, do we think the child's developing typically and everything's fine? Are we going to, like, here's a real simple example. Let's say you've got a kid with the ASQ, does not score well in the fine motor development area. Instead of making a referral for physical therapy, one might say with the family, you know what, we have to give this child more opportunities to practice fine motor skills. We're going to give him Play-Doh to strengthen his hands. We're going to give him scissors. We're going to give different writing utensils. So there are ways to take that baseline data and inform your lesson planning. And for some children, you might say, you know what, we're going to rescreen it, especially with the younger ones, but we're going to then you probably dealt with that. We're going to rescreen in a few months or in a couple of months. Or we're not going to rescreen in a couple of months, but we're just really going to pay special attention to the fine motor skills, whatever it may be. There are other programs, like programs that I have worked in, that are not required to, at the time, I think NACI, it's part of NACI accreditation, I think they're required. Anyone work at it? You work at a NACI. So do they require some kind of screening now? Or something?
Much different screens.
What, yeah,
And now that we talk about this, like, we did a sprawl.
yeah.
And then you're like listing out different things.
Right.
I'm like, I literally just got hit one yesterday.
Right. Okay. Well, see, another example of it all coming together.
I was like, I just don't look at the name of it.
Right.
I know what they look like now. So I guess we do like this, and then as they get older, it's like this, but like modified. A little bit older.
Right, and sometimes, and I think, is everybody here taking the assessment course with Dr. Bushi? So sometimes you look at developmental milestones and you come up with checklists for yourself or other rating scales and those kinds of things, right? But I think NACI accreditation does require some type of screening and assessment. Another thing in my learning, there are two terms. One is screening, which is what I'm talking about right now. Again, first 45 days or first month. Screening and assessment. What do you think? What's the difference between screening and assessment?
Like an observation, like kind of like how they do like the hearing and vision test. Like
Yeah.
they
yeah.
like just like A, B, C.
Right.
Like you're kind of just observing that and then taking your own notes. While an assessment is like the kid.
The kid what?
Like the kid like answering questions.
Well, kind of. Let's take it a little bit further. So screening is typically, these are common terms that I've learned, but I know the terms sometimes are used interchangeably. Screening is done initially. Vision and hearing is a good example. Screening is done initially to determine do we think a child is developing typically, or are there some red flags? Again, first 45 days or the first few months. Assessment, everybody in here, almost everybody in here, are in preschool clinical experiences where you're using creative curriculum and teaching strategies goals, right? Now, I don't know, you might not have gotten that much exposure to teaching strategies goals. That's an assessment tool. Assessment is all year round. Okay, assessment happens all year round, where you're constantly assessing the children and letting it inform your curriculum. We need to work on counting to 10 or counting to 20, or with these children, we need to work on counting to 5, and these children will work on counting. So assessment is happening all year round. If you're using something like teaching strategies gold, and I'm sure, you've seen this with the teachers, again, you may not have much exposure, but there's checkpoints and they're always collecting data, taking pictures of children or taking notes, and they're connecting it to the objectives of teaching strategies gold all year round. So that's the difference in my learning about that. What I was going to say before, where I worked before, we were not required to use any screening tools. There were times with parent permission where there were children that we were particularly concerned about. It could have, often it was a social emotional aspect of development. So we would use the ASQ SE. Sometimes it might have been, physical development, fine motor, large motor, where we might use the other one. So sometimes we would think, let's do that and let's see where it goes if we think a child, because it is a valid research-based tool. Questions, comments? If I go too fast, tell me. All right, so the ASQ looks at the domains of development, communication, language development, gross and fine motor, problem solving, which falls under cognitive, and then personal social development. So the ASQ does look at social emotional as one section, but the ASQ SE, the social looks at the whole thing, social emotional. In your program, did you use both, or do you remember? Do you use one? The regular one, yeah, because it looks at all areas of development. All right, so statistically, so when you use these screening tools, why do we screen? We find children that are clearly developing typically. We find children that are clearly atypical, and we find the ones in the middle where we're not sure. And it's just data, and hopefully it's objective data for you and the family to work together to determine. All right, I'm going to go through a few of these. All right, so with the ASQ, this tool is designed for birth up until 5.5 years of age. But you see there's 21 different tools depending on the age. So it's 2 month, 4 month, 6 month, 8 month, and so on. And then the older they get, the tools are spaced 3 months apart. So you have to know the child's birthday to determine which tool you're going to use. One thing I'm not going to have us do it for children up to 2 years of age. If a child is born prematurely, you take that into account. So, for example, if you get a 20-month-old who was born 2 months early, you actually subtract those 2 months. So you would use the 18-month questionnaire. You do that up to the age of 2. And then after the age of 2, you don't make the adjustments. If a child was born a few weeks premature, depending on, where the child is in his or her age, it might not matter. You still, but it is important that you know the child's birthday and if the child was born premature, if the child is under 2. So when you said you got one yesterday, did you get a chance to look at it?
So, no, I just skimmed over it, but they give them out to the parents.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, so it's like about your kid.
Yeah.
And all that, and then at the end of that is just like, they also have they add on the sheet that's just like asking what they want their kids to work on like at school and
That's
stuff.
good.
So like I looked up a lot of that
Yeah.
as well. I did look at it. No, I know. I was trying to think because I really did like skim past it.
Yeah.
I don't know, I remember like she wanted us to be outside more, which confused me because I'm an outside person.
Who wanted you to be?
Like the parent.
Oh, okay.
Like she was like, "Oh, I wish you guys went outside more," and I was like, "I teach outside, like that's like my thing."
Yeah.
So the weather was nicer. I'm like, "Girl, it's like cold out, so like obviously I'm not gonna keep your kid outside."
Right.
But I'm like, once it's nicer, hopefully she'll see the difference.
Right.
But because I don't like the whole technology thing, so I keep my kids like.
Well, maybe she doesn't know how much you go outside, and maybe she doesn't know how much you value going outside.
Yeah. So I gotta take more pictures outside. I guess I don't really bring my
That's
phone
good.
with us
Yeah.
many places, so I guess I gotta start bringing my phone. But what else did she notice? She noticed her kid is having a hard time like sitting still for like meal times and stuff. That's a common one for a couple of them. What else did she say? I don't know. I'll look at it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And stuff. But we
So you
get
have the
like a
parents fill
packet.
it out.
Yeah.
That's
A
good.
lot of the time we also like for example, if Teresa's in the classroom next to me with the kids, like I'll get their packets for my class.
Oh, that's
and
good.
see,
That's good.
like at the beginning of the year, so I can see like what the concerns are and stuff, and then like the second page, like you can add in what like the parents want in the classroom.
Yeah.
So we do that a lot too.
That's good.
Oh.
I used to do intake forms, where I ask a lot of developmental questions about children. I know, what are their likes, what are their dislikes, what foods do they like to eat, what kind of things do you do at home. So I tried to get a pretty comprehensive picture. And then I would have the parents every year kind of just do an update. Yeah, that's good. it gives you good information. Yeah. So the ASQ, as I said, 5 developmental areas. It's hard to see this, but there's a 6 questions in each area, and the scoring is no, sometimes, or not yet. There's also a mark here on the end for parents to indicate if it's an area of concern. And, and it's written at a 4th grade level. And it's written in multiple languages. Okay. I can't tell you all the languages, but it's written in multiple languages. Research has shown that parent concern is usually pretty spot on. So if a parent has a concern about something, even if they mark something as sometimes, but they mark, so when you score it, you would actually, I'll go to the scoring in a few minutes. You would actually add 5 points on if the parents have a concern. So, yeah.
Ours also have like a box where like write examples.
Yeah.
So if they find that their kid's struggling in a certain area, or like sometimes they'll like write an example of what they do. So that's very helpful as well.
Yeah.
And then we can be like, oh, we'll like look up to that. It's
Right.
easier to remember that
Right.
they're upset or they.
Right. And I have found in some of the ones that I have read that the comments are more revealing than the scoring. So sometimes what they write is like, oh, doesn't sleep well at night. They get up 5 times during the night. They have trouble sitting at meal time, whatever it may be. So, so that's very helpful. All right, so, if something is not, so you're gonna you add up all the points on the page. If something is not scored for a certain reason, you don't average that in. So you want to take that into account. As I said, parent concerns are very predictive. And, I think like even as Julia is describing, even something as simple as wishing you go outside more, it's getting good information from your family. So it's a and like Julie, oh, maybe I'll take more pictures outside. Or maybe I need to let them know how much we really do go outside. Maybe the child comes home and mom says, how long are you outside? And they say 5 minutes. We can Right. What is 5 minutes? What is 5 minutes in the life of a 4 or 5-year-old? So it is good to get the information. I know as you're talking about that, Julia, too. Before parent conferences, I would send out a survey to families and again asking them what they want to talk about and what goals do they have. Because especially in early childhood, my belief in parent conferences is not just we are spewing out information to families, but it's a back and forth exchange with the families. So another thing you have to think about, have you heard the term authentic assessment? Yeah. Okay. What does that mean? What does it mean to you? Yep. Right. Natural setting. Right. So you are observing a child in a natural setting. So you have to remember, just like when I come out to observe you when you do your lesson plan, it's just one snapshot. That's all it is. When you do the ASQ, if you do the ASQ Wednesday at 10 a.m. with a child, it's just one snapshot. You might need to take context into consideration. Is that, did that child have a wild Easter like Aniki had over there? Or the child's tired, okay? Or the child maybe getting sick, or the child's upset about something because, dad dropped off today instead of mom dropping, or whatever it may be. So you do want to take context into consideration. Head Start, early Head Start programs, sometimes they do a home visit. Well, they do. I should say sometimes they do a home visit. Sometimes they do it at the home visit. Sometimes the home visit is at a McDonald's and they do it. But it really is helpful for the setting to be a comfortable setting for them. And if it's not going well, you have to ask yourself, this is representative of the child. And I know, especially, when parent-teacher conferences are coming up, us teachers have a lot of pressure. I had in my 4-year-old class, one day, it was a week or two before parent. And my teacher was a lovely teacher, and she had all these rich activities going on in her 4-year-old classroom. And children were learning all the time. And I walk in the room and she's sitting at a table by herself. And the kids are all really involved. There's other teachers. They're all involved in activities. And, she'd say, Julia, come here. And Julia's busy with what? Julia, sit down. What's this? Count this. What shape is this? What's this? What's this? And Julia would leave. And, and Malik, come over here. And, you don't really want to come over there because you were busy doing. So you're just in a hurry to do what the teacher wants and leave. And I said to the teacher, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? Oh, well, I'm trying to collect information for parent-teacher conferences. And I was like, because that's what your lesson plans are for. That's what those intentional lesson plans are for, and the targeted lessons. And that's where you collect child data. You do that ongoing assessment, and you may even say to yourself, I'm not doing enough math activities in my classroom. I've got all this data. I've got all this social emotional data. I've got all this literacy. I've got all this data. I haven't collected a lot of math data. So what is that telling me? I need to do more math activities with my kids. I have all these children in my room. I don't know what they can count up to. How can I, so many of you had done these fun games and things, right? Math-based. That would become your lesson plan. So you learn that information. So you do want to take that into consideration. I brought up the cultural part. Like I said, you might leave some things out for a variety of reasons. If you are doing the ASQ, you want to obtain consent. You want to make sure families know what it is, why you're doing it, and let them know about confidentiality. I already told you about the adjusted age for children up to the age of 2. Questions about anything? How am I doing? Fast? Okay. All right. Okay, so you want to review the responses. Like I said, if something is missing, you can try to get that information, or you can just omit the item. Yeses are 10s, 5, sometimes 5, not yet 0. And you're going to add everything up at the bottom and you're going to average. And can you see that? So you put, so the one where it's not scored, you just won't add that one in. Won't add that one in. All right, so this is kind of hard to see. So I've also had, well, I've actually had students, I've had students who, when they take the assessment class at Oak, that they give out the ASQ to families. This is the last page, okay? This is the scoring page. And I purposely had the students not give out the scoring. They were students, they were learning how to use it. So the parents did all the other pages that the students scored. So you see, there's a black area. Let's see if I did it. There's a gray area, and then there's a white area. Okay. You also see overall responses. Hard to read it. The first one. Here's well, question mark. The parent said no. The comment is ignores me. So those kinds of things. So you want to pay attention to the comments, even if they're not scored. Again, if you find out a child is not sleeping well at night, it's not something that is scored, but it's important for you to have information. So what you're going to do is, it doesn't show the bottom of the page. Anyway, what you're going to do is you're going to chart everything and decide, and it says at the bottom of this page, give the child, again, needs further evaluation. If you think the child is developing typically, or we're going to watch, we're going to watch his language, we're going to watch her large motor skills, and we're going to make sure we plan very intentionally. And the family is going to work on that at home too. So you do make decisions with the family. And I don't know if any of you have had this experience. I have. And it's just part of how things work. Where we have made recommendations for children to be further evaluated, families have said no. Or whatever, yeah.
We have that every day.
So,
That's how, our.
yeah,
We would actually for it.
yeah. So, yeah, so what, that's hard, it's hard for everybody. But thoughts about that, let's talk about that.
I personally.
Yeah.
It hurts me because I can understand the parents' point of view when they find out your child wants it or your child has.
Well, it's not yet, right, this is not going to diagnose.
Right.
But, right,
Like that's part of like.
that's the beginning of the
Exactly.
process, right?
And it just bothers me that certain parents don't want to get in the child at home because they feel like it's not a lot.
And some children do exceed
Yeah.
expectations
Yeah.
from their IEPs. Others, yeah, Julia?
I don't know. I find it disappointing just because like it'll not only help the kid, but it'll help the teachers as well. And then also it's just like the excuse we're getting right now is that we don't have time. And it's like, what do you mean you don't have time for your kid? So then it's like that's like a whole different side of it. Like that's like kind of disappointing that you're not making time for your kid to get home. So
That's the mom will get on board.
yeah.
Especially if the only child. So like,
Well, it could, yeah, it could be, my interpretation of it is, as a parent, and I am a parent, and I don't think you have to be a parent to interpret it. Parents think their kids are great, right? And when we hear something that's not so great, it's a direct reflection on us, like, oh my God, what did I do wrong? What's going on there, which is not true. I think it's really hard, not having time, that's not good. That's,
It keeps saying that over and over again. And
they don't have time for what, to get them further
to get him
evaluated?
evaluated. Yeah. But he's like,
Can I ask what the concerns are?
he's autistic.
Okay, is he diagnosed already?
No, but that's what we're pushing towards. He's very young still, like I think he's 2, maybe 3, but
So you suspect?
we suspect that he is autistic, yeah. And like they're having to take problems at home and like the thing came back and like it's all pretty much the same. And,
Right, so the ASQ social emotional could be very revealing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're like,
Right,
and
and
evaluating might help, like if I did the strategies here, like they're not necessarily working, we're looking for new different things. So we mentioned like evaluation and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, like we'll do that, yeah. And like we'll like check in, like, oh, are you gonna have someone to evaluate you? Because they come to our school, so they have to like know if
Right, of course.
they're gonna come to evaluate, you want us to find someone to evaluate, like blah blah. Have a fun time, we don't have time right now, like blah blah, so. Frustrated.
Yeah. In much of my experience, when we had concerns about children in childcare, so children that were in a program on your own. Not all of my experience, much of it, it's taken sometimes a year. to get,
Yeah, I think I wanted to agree with you. Usually it is the mom of course and the dad like a both of it when especially when it's a son. But I'm just very curious and depending on because for my family member, they had a son like 8 years old. And he's about to turn 4 and non-verbal, like he doesn't communicate at all, and he'll tend to like when he has a rush of emotions, you see him freak up and he'll like throw his hands and he'll like shake profusely. And I'm just like, and I don't obviously want to like mention to them like, oh, like have they seen about something about him non-verbal? But yeah, and the dad's always like, no, my son's fine. Like, if one of them mentions, like, oh, like, I have this, guy therapy,
And like the mom would be like, oh yeah, like I want to look into it because again, it's not and so then but the dad's like, no, like he just needs to like be speaking more now. Like just need to have someone to talk. And I'm just like, oh my god, like, and he's my uncle, so I just feel like sometimes he'll be like, oh, you guys are the younger generation and don't know, but like, and I'm just like, okay,
It takes time.
yeah, like
It takes time.
like getting him to
It takes time.
yeah.
Yes.
And then they haven't been one. I don't think they want to yet, or even if he's like bored, they're like thinking about it. But the mom wants to, but the dad's like, no. I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. You know, I remember working with a family once, mom and dad, they were both teachers. And he was 1.5, I think. And he didn't crawl in long. Scooted on his rear end. I've never seen a kid so fast around the room on his rear end. But, you know, he went pull up. He was maybe 1.5, close to 2. And I remember working, talking with the parents to get him evaluated. Motor skills, large motor skills. And they were both teachers. And what they said to us was, we're teachers. We know what it's like when children are late. We can now hear child.
That's something that a parent.
Yeah.
The dad had 80. Like,
Yeah.
They want their child to get help, but they don't want their child.
Yeah. Because so a good example, I think, of this dad, whatever his experience was as a student in school, it was not good. And he doesn't want that for his own child. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, these parents, they were both like, no, we are not doing it. And man, these teachers were doing everything. He was in a toddler classroom. They were doing everything to like try to entice him to like pull up on a table or a shelf or even crawl. And he went through it, he went through it, he went through it. And I forget many, I think we had a fall conference and then we had a spring conference. And teachers said to me, can you come to the spring conference? Let's talk to the parents again. Sure, okay. So I can picture us. We're sitting down in the room, waiting for the parents. They walk in, they mom and dad sit down and they said, okay, we're ready. Yeah, okay, yeah, tell us where we can go. So it takes time. And that's why you have to have these relationships with them. And, you know, Julia, I'm not saying this happened at your center, but I was working with a center a few months ago. Same thing. They had a 2-year-old, 2.5-year-old that they were concerned about. You know, they wanted him tested. They were suspecting autism. Here's what happened. One thing. Number one, they didn't have a good relationship. Anyway. 2, one of the teachers said to the mom, I think your son's autistic. Okay. The teacher is not qualified to say that. The teacher is not trained. She is not certified. She is not qualified to say that. And, you know, that was it. That's, yeah, you know, so we also, we as teachers, you know, we as early childhood teachers, we need to know development. We need to know developmental milestones. And we need to know red flags, because that's what they're called, red flags, yeah.
I know that you're discussing like not dropping it like that, would you just express to them like you have concern?
Yeah.
When they're developing.
Yeah. So this is where an ASQ or ASQ SE come in, because it can be very objective information. And that's where sometimes I think when we talk to families about something unpleasant, we want to be very objective. And we don't want to put labels on it, even like, you know, he was angry or he was sad, you know, we just really want to describe what the child is doing or not doing. And then asking the family, you know, can tell us what he's doing at home. You know, like this little guy, you know, we put things on the table for him to pull up and he's not pulling up. He scoots around on his bottom. I mean, it was actually an amazing thing to see, because he could go around that room really fast. Yeah.
I've had my cousin or someone, like in my family was a scooter.
Yeah.
And like never crawl.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, some kids don't, But, I would also say to the family, what ideas do you have? We're trying to get them to want to pull up or, move in a different way and ask. But I think if you stick with objectivity and you stick with a tool like the ASQ or some checklist, you can go on, oh gosh, like the Center for Disease Control or American Academy of Pediatrics or 0 to 3 is an organization. You can go on their websites and get like milestones and checklists. And, I've also learned over the years, if we had a difficult topic with parents, whether it was something like that or swearing or biting or what's spitting. Sometimes if I had an article, this is back in the day before everything was online, I had a file cabinet of articles. I love my file cabinet. I had a cabinet like this packed with articles. Because sometimes, and now of course we go online, we just want to direct people to the right place, right? But instead of it just being me saying to the parents, I would say, here's an article, because then it's some other authority, maybe somebody with expertise. And again, we can, I wouldn't say go to ChatGPT or go Google it. I wouldn't say that, but I might say, I got this milestone checklist from the American Academy of Pediatrics. So it's just another authority, and it's not us. So that's, yeah, but I think you have to be up there. Like when kids, I've had teachers when kids have these challenging behaviors, hitting, pushing, whatever. Instead of, the parent comes in at the end of the day, the parent's tired, you're tired, and say, oh, I had such a bad day. You don't want to say that. Instead you might say, today I used the checklist to see how many times he pushed somebody down and the time of day. And or this week I did this. So you just want to have some objective data. Does that make sense? Yeah, it's hard. These are hard conversations. And that's why you have to have relationships with families. And if you have relationships with them from the very first time, they walk into your child care center or they walk into your classroom or you meet them at an open house before the school year starts. If you convey this, welcoming community to them, if and when you have to have a difficult conversation, it will still be difficult. It's never easy, right? It's never easy. But hopefully one day then they will be open to it. And sometimes, here's this whole thing too. When it's your own kid, everything is, for lack of a better word, everything is normal. This is what we do at our house. This is our house. This is normal. This is typical. So it's not atypical behavior. I had somebody come work for me once as a teacher's aide, a woman. She had to be 40, 34 years old, smart, intelligent, educated woman. Wasn't the teacher, but she was an aide. She had a son who was 2.5 years old. I hired her. She was fabulous. I hired her for my 2-year-old classroom, so she was working with the same age as her son. She worked for a few months, and she said, "Oh my gosh, I think something's wrong with my son." I never realized it until I was in this room with 15 2-year-olds and saw how they were developing. And I need to take them to the doctor and have them evaluate as autistic.
It's like you don't even know, like,
You don't know.
because you're with them every day. So like even as a teacher, like I don't even see all these differences just
Right.
like their face and I put their yearbook together.
Right.
And so like she is probably the same thing.
Right.
She just didn't know.
Right. Well, and again, it's, what's happening in your household is typical for your household. Whether it's temper tantrums or, whatever it may be, that's, and I think we're getting so busy in our lives as teachers, as parents, as people who care for children, we get so busy, we need to take a step back as teachers. Something's not working in your classroom, you got to reflect. Step back. What's going on? Why is it this time of day all hell is breaking loose in my classroom? What is going on? What can I do? But it's hard. Honestly, like I said, it's taken often a year get families to take those steps. And I've also had many, not many, but I've had families leave our go somewhere else. I've also had families get kicked out of other programs and come to, which I have often thought was, even though it drove my teachers crazy, was a gift because I thought this was the opportunity. You know, sometimes they had to hear it a few times. Hard. It's hard. Okay, ages and stages, social emotional questionnaire. So the scoring is opposite for this one. Don't ask me why, but it is an opposite scoring. You want a lower score, would be a total score with the ASQSE, where with the other ASQ, you want the higher scores put you in that white area. So the different areas that are looked at: self-regulation, compliance, adaptive functioning, affect, social communication, interaction with people. You know, as I'm reading that, that should probably maybe remind you a little bit of those Illinois early learning guidelines that we use with infants and toddlers. Of course, this is geared all the different areas toward the appropriate age groups. So here, you also have to, with the SE, be careful of how you're scoring, because everything in the first column is not necessarily a 0, and the second column is not necessarily a 5. So you have to be careful with the scoring. So often or always, it could be a 0 or a 10. Rarely or never could be a 0 or a 10. So you have to look at that carefully when you're scoring. Sometimes it's a 5. Maybe it was not. Maybe it's a both. Is it a concern? Like I said, you're going to add 5 points if there's a concern. And scores falling above the cutoff, so the higher score means the child should be referred for further evaluation. Questions? Okay, I have a few slides in here about early intervention that I'm not going to go over. What I want you to do now is, if you go into module 12 of our content, under, I think it's under activities, there's 2 samples in there. There's an ASQ and there's an ASQ SE that are scored, that I scored a while ago. What I'd like you to do, and there's written directions, don't worry about the written directions, we're not ready. What I want you to do, let's see, everybody's here. How about we just do groups of 3? Okay, so what, 2 or 3? You can choose, get to your own group. What I want you to do is pick one of the tools, not both of them, either the ASQ or the SE. I do have them samples with different ages. I want you to look it over with your partner or partners. I want you to score it. And then based on the score, just talk about how would you talk with families about it and what would you do as okay? All right, so I'm going to let you, you can get groups of 2 or 3. And you can pick what everybody, you find those tools, pick a tool, one of the tools. I hope, well, although I don't want everybody to do that. All right, which one do you want? Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right, you can do whichever. Pick one of them. You'll do the ASQ. That'll help you when you look at that. Right. All right, so you can look at whichever. Pick one of the tools, ASQ or the ASQ SE. Look it over, score it, and then just talk about how you would talk to parents, families, and what you would do as a got some bathrooms up here, a couple more bars, if anybody wants to stay.
It's different, right? One's just the emotions.
Yes.
And maybe that one.
Yeah. It's not an ad. But you just have like one of those.
Oh, we're supposed to. Are we filling it out or we're good? It's already filled out, but I think we're supposed to see where.
Fine, fine. Only the first one, before the. Nice. Oh, did you cut this? Oh, yeah, I did the whole thing. Problem solving. Oh, that's the second. So do only the first. I guess I'll split it up. I wish it was like. I think it is separate. So it has like the little photo baby. Separate for here. There were eight of that. Oh, you're doing per page, right? So it's. So it's, oh, I think I might have missed one. There is some social.
Mhm.
It's kind of maybe something, and one is also. Where are we? Like all the world and do all the online express your emotions and then I'm having a couple years where. How many fingers she does have in here? I think she has. That's so. So 11 or. Yeah, the hand. That is. Oh, each area.
What did it say?
So it's how we get them gross. I have one. Yeah, these are really- yeah, I would be-
Remember answering these questions?
I think. Oh, I say where we're supposed to say it.
Oh, the score and then still complete these questions.
What?
The little thing.
22.
We're doing the S.
Essie? Okay. Which one are you doing?
It was in the activities.
What about you?
Yeah. Huh?
You want to present your television?
Yeah.
Okay.
Separate.
So that you score and I like how there's like paragraphs or just score or.
I think that loading right up. I can't see the thing.
Problem. Like celebration. But this is like a section, the girls wrote there, and then I wrote down. Yes. That's
Type in it.
Rami stepping the children. That's. We'll just say 2000. Yeah, that's 35. That's a one. Yeah. Zero. Yeah. That's not.
This is an older chapter.
While you're all doing this, I'm taking a quick look in hours at watermarks, if anybody has any questions. Is there anything you know about it? Well, you're gonna get a 5 today.
Oh,
That's
that's
97. So you're missing 3.
Yeah.
Alright, I'll look right now.
And 97 something.
You're at 97.
Someone who already have a check mark?
How many reasons?
Wait.
They all have it. Right, 'cause it's already been done.
Oh, we're just like putting in like
Your infant toddler hours
No, I
after
got
today.
the,
should
for
be
some
at
of these, you just click one, you can click two.
Okay,
So this
I'll-
is the
yeah.
concern.
but yeah.
So if you're concerned, you mark that you're concerned. So this is the scoring part. and
I,
you circle
you
the-
have, your teacher has to approve.
So that, the parents did click two for that answer.
Yeah, because,
It was the sleeping.
yeah, it's, they have this
Oh, I
option
see.
and they're.
I wonder what those- Maybe you're missing it.
So they also do this one in, sort of sometimes, or they. And it's also you have 5 points. What's your?
Uh, yeah. Good news. I know you're missing the infant lesson.
Oh, okay.
But you can put that in. And we used to be fine.
Yeah.
So, yeah, then you'll be.
But like a 10 kilo and the strawberry on there.
You put the top of us. Just do that tree you put today. Just say it. I have no problem.
For the overall.
Did you do a lot? Which one?
So I thought it was all of these, so I can see.
The base which?
Yeah.
2 years.
They switch for some of them.
Why does it do it?
Does anyone want me to check anything specifically in your water?
You check mine.
Yeah,
Just to see like what it is, say, or. I'm not sure how.
Alright. And you know your teacher has to approve hours.
Yeah.
She did some.
She did some, I have to have her.
Do you want to try?
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry.
I have a problem with like.
Yeah, I know that, but that's, I know that, I'm not worried about that. This one. Preschool. I don't know why I picked this one. Two ways.
Yeah.
Why did I read them? Or is it just a question? Yeah, I can't, oh, I know why. I think it's just a word.
Oh, okay.
I see, I submit that, or I want to go to it, one that was rejected.
You can't.
Oh, you-
You told me to do that.
Gateways, and I don't care.
Okay, but the two.
Two-way, to B, to C, 7 hours. To A, to B, to C, 7.
Which was the
Right. Yeah, but that's because it was preschool, but you put it as a top.
but I have to resubmit that. So which one was it?
Oh. Okay, February 25th. Today I read a book. For 4 hours, just say 4 hours, pretty big savings.
And that's for preschool.
Yeah, preschool. And then March 5th, preschool 4 hours. I never looked at March 5th yet. There was somewhere that when I fixed it, but all right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I did get some of that.
Okay, all right.
And it was a common the rate. Now, what about your life?
That was-
Yeah. Right. Last. I'm doing a time, are you guys done? Yeah. Okay, time check. People need more time, right? So, work on I scribbled something on it. And I'll check. Okay. Do you need more time? Okay, a few more minutes.
That's what was a great.
Anyone else have a concern about watermark, or you think something's missing? You think something's missing?
I'm just not sure if I have all my.
All right, well, we have to talk anyway, right? So we'll talk after class. Couple people I want to touch base with. All right, we need a couple more minutes to work on this stuff. Yeah. An email. She had to go for class. So she doesn't know what it would be. So. Did she tell you? Well, no, not really. I think it's a. Anytime he's actually, I think it's around 29. Yeah, what's your last day? The 29th, like, for her, but I mean, the day for things, I'll talk. Okay, for now, that's the side one, that's abstaining, what permanency there. Right, which is really nice. Yeah. Let me, so the way the class observation works, I think she gets notified a day or 2 days before. She didn't. Oh, they just show up? Yeah. She said that she didn't. I don't know how I start my. This week is that, like, I'm not sure. Okay. All right, so. Okay, so her window for the class observation is April 23rd. Oh, that's when she said it. To May 2nd. So, yeah. So, like, for all you know, it'll be on. Yeah. So what? I think when I go back to direction. When she has it, she should let us know. That's all they care, how flexible it is. You're on my day. And yeah. Yeah, something. All right, well, she did not find everything was good. It's great that the class. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. So that's 28. Let's see, check it with the. Yeah, she had told me the 22nd, the 29th was she put it in, she wrote the 23rd. Well, so here's a thought. And then your point of the end, everybody's staring. So that means that it's not going to do it. Something terrible. Make your last day and your lesson plan and the. Yeah. Yeah. So. Okay. Yeah, over that one o'clock there, I'll get the your child. Oh, all right, so when does this do that? Fine. Okay. And, then we don't have to worry about waiting. She said that. She didn't make this show up. That's what she said. Okay. That works.
And then for the like,
I wanna write them down, so I'll make sure, like, I knew that was some things that were like, oh, for stuff today. So, well, like, I didn't know what they were.
Yeah.
So I wanna make sure that.
So,
Yeah, just write down,
So for each.
it can be like, here, the hours, or we say, oh, so all you put, it's like one. Write something brief, but specific, like. I like today, is. Okay. Alright, so let's. What time? Almost, you know. Right now. Oh. Thank you. All right, everyone, are you ready or ready enough? Sorry, so sorry. Yes, okay, are we ready-ish? Okay, all right, so two groups did ASQ, which worked out well, and two groups did ASQ SE. You did ASQ, and you did ASQ.
Which I'll,
Okay, so,
which I'll get, 'cause I don't know what I did.
all right, so what, let's see if your scores are the same.
Oh.
Bingo.
We were just confused, because for, which is fine, in the zero. Yeah.
Okay.
For growth, for 20, which is the black. Yeah, which is the black. Fine, 15, also in the black. Problem solving, 20, also.
You got 25, is that still,
Did it get 25?
is it still in the black?
It's only 20.
Okay,
Oh,
okay.
20 is the black.
Okay, so you've got a few in the black.
It's 20 black. Oh, it is black, yeah. It's personal, social, we got 40, which is.
Okay,
It's always a.
okay, so why don't you take turns? Sharing your thoughts, like what does that tell you as a teacher? How does that inform your work, and how would you talk with families, parents? Okay,
So the one like, that where you put balance.
Mhm.
Let's think that's like balance. For
Mhm.
stuff, blocks, some people. So we feel like maybe the balance is the main issue in the development. I mean, the development.
right,
I know over here, if it's in the black, further assertion. So we just like, if it is the teacher's job to give it us, give it to them.
oh, you have a teacher's job to inform the parents?
Yeah, so no, we were, this is the black, and it's like.
Further, so remember, it's a flexible tool.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
So I was saying that like, and before like sending them to the classroom, and it's advising and would talk to like our team and like discuss where it should go on with the discussions. And then also like looking at the parents' response when we had mentioned that there has been still, I mean, before the that it's okay that they're not using the food completely because they're still just like their.
Sure.
So that's not something that is part of the for this time.
Okay, how about,
Thinking like otherwise just words, I don't know. They mentioned how the baby often has ear infection from the cold, so that could be why. are not feeling the best. and
Yeah.
maybe, like, tubes put in their ears
Right.
or something, they're very common now.
And that can affect balance.
Yeah, and he crawls really fast, they mentioned as well, so I don't know if like they need to, like, we could mention like, or we could like give them enriching experiences, like examples to give, or giving them, or like, I mean, oh, he likes this toy at school, like maybe like it at home and you put it on top of the counter, so to pull up and.
Right.
and Stuff, so you can just like give them ideas on how to.
Yeah.
Enrich him more, and encourage him more to,
Right.
develop, and also like,
Well,
Yeah.
you know what, is it that there is a concern? Let me rephrase that. Is it lack of opportunity for practicing like gross and fine motor skills? Or is it something that's a concern? And you don't know,
Yeah.
So are you, just because something's in the black, are you automatically going to make a referral? It depends, right? It just depends. You talk to the family, like the family might say, oh, we're afraid he's gonna get hurt, so we don't let him crawl around and we don't, whatever it may be. So it just depends, that's why it's a flexible tool. When you talk with the family, and I guess your question was, would it be you that makes the referral for evaluation? Is that what your question was? Another, my answer again might be, it depends, that might be something where your director, you're in a childcare setting, maybe your director would join you in the meeting and say, we want you to think about getting further evaluation, here's some information that. So it just depends on your program. But is it because the child is lagging in that area, or is it lack of opportunity?
I think like, if I received this as the teacher, I would like communicate with the parents and like, talk to them, like if this was at the beginning of the year.
Sure.
Or like right before a conference, like, we talk about it and be like, okay, like this is what I plan to add to our curriculum for him to work on this.
Yeah.
And it continues to raise flags, like we'll say.
Right. Right.
I'll send it home, and, do this at home, and we'll continue at school, so it's like
Right.
consistent.
Right, and let's check in with each other in a month or in
Yeah.
2 months or something, yeah.
I would-
Right, so, you might and you might not, but either way, you've got that documentation. I would share it with the parents, I would share it with them. But it just could be something that all of you are just, your senses are, enlightened to really focus on this now. And like that little boy I told you about who wouldn't crawl or walk or pull up, the teachers tried to create opportunities for him to move around the classroom in other ways besides scooting around on his bottom. And that wasn't working. Okay, any other thoughts? And yeah, the ear infections may,
I was gonna say something on that, because they, but I don't think that he wants to walk, so maybe it's not even that he doesn't want to, but I mentioned like the, doesn't feel balance, so the ear infections.
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Right, so it's all connected. Yeah, it's all, and you want to take those factors into consideration. And maybe, they're going to the pediatrician, oh geez, getting a lot of ear infections. The pediatrician brought up tubes to us before, but we weren't ready, but maybe we'll revisit that. So maybe this child's gonna go get tubes. And then in a month or two, you're gonna look at that again and see if it's any different. Because our body, right? Everything's all connected, and we know those domains of development are interrelated with each other. Good, okay, very nice, thank you. All right, and by good fortune, we had 2 other groups who did the ASQ-SE. So remember, this is different scoring, there's just one whole score here. So what score did you come up with?
For the total 170.
What'd you come up with?
We're almost there.
Yeah. Yeah, all right, so what does that mean? If you look at,
This is that black area,
okay,
which is so-called further assessment with a professional maybe needed.
Right. What was the cutoff for that age?
65.
All right, so this is way over the cutoff. Okay, so how would you talk to the family about that?
For me, the family's main concern was with bedtime,
Yeah.
nap time, and their child's social emotional behaviors such as hitting, biting other children, tantrums lasting more than 15 minutes. To me, that points to an overtired child. So I would suggest that I would ask them about the bedtime routine. I would suggest that they have a consistent bedtime routine that's the same every night. And I would suggest that they engage their child in activities throughout the day, physical activities that make the child tired,
Ready to sleep,
ready
right?
to sleep.
Right.
Um,
And and that, I think that's a good interpretation because you're looking at all of those things. Yeah, that, because we know what happens to us if we're overtired. With young children, it could be even uglier, right? So even something like that, as you're saying that, there is a good table, I think it's a table in the American Academy of Pediatrics website about total number of hours of sleep children should have by age. And that includes, like, for what is this, a 2-year-old? Is that
barely to
yeah? Let's say it says I forget 13 hours a day for a 2-year-old, but that doesn't mean 13 hours at night. It means a nap time during the day and then a night.
Yeah, it says the child rarely or sometimes gets 10 hours.
Total. Yeah, I think it is 13 for that age. I could be wrong, but we know 10 is not. Yeah. Okay, good. And so what about what does that say for you if you were this child's teacher?
I would pay attention to whether the child is or not at that time. And I would just relay. I don't think I would refer the child. I would want to refer the child to a specialist because it just looks like an overtired child to me. And also, she is barely 2. So
Yeah.
the parents marked that they want her to be talking. And those are not things that I would be concerned
Okay.
about.
And as you're saying that too, it's making me think too, another slightly formal, slightly informal way that I'm thinking about for them to go further with this is, gee, maybe you should talk to your pediatrician. Yeah, right, because all of those lack of sleep could trigger all those things. Right. Yeah. So what about what did you ladies?
More or less, they talk to the pediatrician, also provide the parent with education materials. They don't know, like, hey, chances I have to have something.
Right, exactly. And even, what did it say? The child is not sleeping well and was having these long tantrums. It could be overtired, but it could also be, I think we've talked briefly in here about, negative reinforcement and positive reinforcement, how the family reacts to these tantrums and how we as adults need to be co-regulators for these children. So they calm down. Good. Okay, good. So that was good. That was really good. For those of you in particular, this is giving Julia heightened awareness for her job now with this kid, right? But for those of you, especially new to these tools, what thought, or revisiting the tools, what are your reactions? What do you think? And you're looking at it for younger, for infantile, but this does exist for kindergartners as well. Yeah.
Action. That's something.
Right, exactly. And sometimes you may not know. And that's why you have to remember this is just one snapshot. This is just one moment in time of this child's life. And, you may say to your, like the fine motor and large gross motor, you may say, you know what? We're gonna come up with a checklist and really pay attention to his fine motor and large motor and see if we are still concerned after we track some things for the next few days. So it just gives you a heightened awareness there too. Yeah. Other thoughts, reactions?
Yeah, it kind of shows me the importance of having parent feedback. Because you can see a child in class and find out what's happening out. It makes sense, it all comes together. You see that the
Yes.
child's having 15-minute tantrums, maybe they're not sleeping out.
Yeah.
So
I was working with this one program, early Head Start program, and they had this little boy. He was a year old, an infant, a year old. So he was transitioning. He was going on a regular nap schedule, and he was just this great little kid doing all the things he was supposed to be doing sometimes of the day, and then the other times of the day he was totally opposite. And they couldn't figure out what was going on with him. And then they found out that the family lived in a one-room apartment and they all shared a bed. And it was in a room, what was it? Something with the lights. Either they had a lot of light in there or no light. I can't, but anyway, they all shared a room. So his sleep throughout the night was constantly interrupted when other family, he had older siblings, he had parents, and they really worked with the family to try to establish a routine for him. And even though this is one, even though with their living space, and I'll tell you, they worked really hard with the family for a few months, and he was like a different child once they got those sleep routines down. So yeah, I think you're on to something. Okay, all right, thanks. That was good. And any questions for anybody? Questions, final comments? No, okay. I am going to, let me go over a couple of quick things. And if you want me, so watermark. Oh, here, let me pull this back up. What we've done today in class, we're here for about 3 hours, but it feels like 5 hours, right? So you can tonight, like I said, go home and think about this for a moment when you're at home. Or look at the early intervention slides. Put in 5 hours of infant toddler hours for today. All you have to do for your entry is write ASQ and EI. Ages and stages questionnaire and early intervention. I do have some early intervention slides on there. They're
How many hours? 5 hours?
5 hours. Because that's how hard infant toddler. So these should be your final infant toddler hours. If you just look at your infant toddler hours, let me pull the PowerPoint up again. You should be at 50 infant toddler hours. If you feel, if you're missing assignments, now's the time to get, especially assignments that connect to infant toddler. Now is the time to submit those so you can submit the hours so I can approve the hours. You should be, after you enter these 5 hours for today, unless you're already at 97, then enter 3, but if you enter 5, you should be at 50 infant toddler hours. You can enter it right now if you want. And once you are done with your clinical, your preschool clinical, and obviously your CT approves your hours. Some are better than others. No names here, not calling anybody out. You know who your CTs are. Just remind them to do it. Remind them to approve your hours. And you know what, even on your last day, it would be just really fine and dandy if you sit down with your CT and just say, hey, I'll put my hours in right now so you can approve right now. Make it nice and easy for it. So you should be at 100. You have to be at 100 to, that's a requirement for this course. Questions. So if if you're at 47 infant toddler hours, 44, whatever, and if you need me to take a look, I can probably take a quick look. I pretty much have memorized what you should add in for infant toddler hours. If you have submitted hours that I rejected, you should, when I reject hours, I do write a comment in there why I reject them, like maybe you put them in as preschool and said, but can you see them?
Yes.
Okay, you can. Okay, good. Because somebody before was having trouble seeing.
There's the comments at the bottom that says submitted by mistake.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm just thinking. Okay, so let me just remind everybody. Can I move on? And like, if you need me to look at your infant toddler hours before you go home today, I can do that, or you can email me. I'll be looking at them anyway. All right, just to remind everybody, the educator disposition assessment, you are to do a self-assessment. It's in Watermark. It's the final self. There's two in there. I think there's a midterm one and a final one. You only have to do the final one. You will do one. I just want to look at our class schedule. And I will do one. This is a pilot program for NEIU this year, so it is not part of your grade. However, I think, my interpretation is we're doing it because we know how important disposition is to this work as teachers. So please make sure you do that. I think, I don't know if I put it in D2L yet. Oh, yeah. Okay, it will be due, the EDA will be due on May 9th. And I have a hard deadline. Everything's gonna be May 9th, excuse me, not May 9th, that's Sunday. May 11th, Mother's Day.
So even though it says in Watermark, May 9th, just go.
Oh, did I put May 9th? Yeah, all right, yeah. May 9th is good. May 11th is good. Yeah, I think, but that's a hard deadline for everything. Anything, if you're missing anything, that's gonna be a hard deadline for everything. If you're missing anything. So just to remind you, with the educator disposition assessment, there are 9 dispositions you're going to rate yourself on. These are the 9: oral communication, written communication, professionalism, positive attitude, preparedness, appreciation of and value for cultural and academic diversity, collaboration, self-regulation, and social emotional learning. If you look at each one, I think there's and the rating scales 1, 2, and 3. I think under each of the ratings, there's examples of what would demonstrate that. Just like it's a 1, 2, and 3 rating scale, just like the lesson plan evaluations that are done in Watermark, just like that pre-CPAS that your CT will be completing and I will be completing at the end of the semester. For 327A, let's just say everything is, just for the sake of argument, a 1, 2, and 3 rating scale, 3 being the best, 1 being the worst. On the average, generally speaking, students in 327A should be at a 2, because we want to see progress over time. A 2 can very well translate to an A or a B. I had a student concerned when she looked at her scoring. It's just goofy how it works. Now, when you go into 327B, the stakes are higher, same rating scale. And when you go into student teaching, the stakes are higher. Makes sense. So we want to see progress over time. But take a look at the examples for the disposition in each of those ratings of 1, 2, and 3, because just to help you get a handle on what is going on. So needs improvement, developing or meets up. Finish up on, we have 2 toddler lesson plans that are going to be here with us for giving tonight, so everybody can see that. Capture the audience for that. That would be lovely. So I told you 5 lessons by May 9th. Don't make me work on Mother's Day. Maybe that was my rationale with that. Okay, wrapping up the semester. So you're finishing your hours, your preschool club hours, make sure your CP approves them, let's say by May 9th, would be really good. Let's say Friday. I sent an email out to all the CTs today, just reminding them about they have to do the pre-speak test, which is exactly one of our children, and I do it. Typically, I do it after they do it. Doesn't mean my score will mimic their score. It's just that I want to see. I also put in my email that week, the week of May 5th. I would like to have a brief virtual meeting with you and your CT for 10-15 minutes. And if they could let me know or let you know somebody. Oh, your CT. We had this before. Just let me know what's a good day and time for them to meet, 10-15 minutes, and then, my schedule, I will have much more availability that week, and we'll just have a 10-15 minutes. Just to, if they completed the pre-CPS during feedback, and of course, suggestions. Questions about that? Yeah, okay. We are not meeting next week. What you'll have to do, catch up, if you have to catch up. Reflective journal number 2 is due next week. And if you look at our schedule for next week is 21. Oh, well, see, we don't have class, so you get to celebrate. Well, we will all have to think of you on that day. So if you look at our schedule, I have us, and let me explain. So next week, we've been alternating every week. We're online because we're celebrating. And then I have us on the schedule meeting on Monday, May 5th and Monday, May 12th. So here's what's going to happen. Monday, May 5th is going to be our last class for today. Okay. If you're interested, you can let me know yay or nay or something tonight with the other classes. The other class suggested everybody bringing in a little bit of food and treat for us to share and have fun. If you're interested in that, we can do that. That will be our last class together, May 5th. May 12th, which is our official last class. Instead, I want to have virtual meetings with each of you. Just to touch base, make sure we got everything in and everything done. What I will do, I will send out my Google Calendar. So our class is normally 4:15, right? So I'm going to send out a Google Calendar with for 4:15. If you want to meet a different day, a different time, that's fine. You want to meet before then, we can do it the week of the 5th. We can do it after we meet with your CT. Whatever you want, just let me know. Because I'll send out a calendar for that day for you to sign up. But if you just want to get it over with before, that's fine. So, like I said, maybe meeting with your CT on May 5th at 10 a.m. And then you want to just continue meeting with me afterwards, just to look at everything. That's fine. What you will have to do in Watermark, obviously, make sure all the hours are in there. Make sure your CT approves them. And then once your CT completes your evaluation, your pre-CPS, and I complete it, you have to go and look at them and you have to acknowledge them as water. There's a link of Watermark to go and put next to this. There's a box to check off. I don't know. Because I have all that stuff. Yeah, there was something else that you had in there too that is showing that I have to do it, but I might have to get question. All right, if anybody wants to stick around afterwards for me to talk about your schedule for watermark or anything else, please do. And if we can just give our attention, if you want to stay where you are, you want to come up here, wherever you're comfortable. I can stay. Okay, that's fine. Stay in the night. We'll give you relaxing. Okay.
So I think
They have separate lessons.
I chose older toddlers, 18 months to 36 months. 10 students, and there's going to be a small group activity. The topic or the title of the lesson will be aquatic animals and the color yellow. About 15 minutes. For the standard, I use physical development and health fine motor. The standard is children demonstrate the ability to coordinate their small muscles in order to move and control objects. Scribble with intent and begins to draw circles and lines on own. Language development, communication, and literacy, receptive communication standard. Children demonstrate the ability to comprehend both verbal and nonverbal communication. Names most objects and people in familiar environment, comprehends compound statement, and can follow multi-step directions. The objective and focus is they will do an art project with the color yellow and aquatic animals. The students will have a coloring sheet of aquatic animals, and they can choose which animal they want to color. And after they finish coloring, they can decorate with yellow stickers along with the colors. And students will be able to identify the different aquatic animals on the worksheet. Like they will when they'll be asked, what animal did you guys choose? The materials, they will have 10 to 12 worksheets of the aquatic animals: turtles, whales, seals, fish. Yellow circle stickers for them to put on the coloring sheet. Crayons and the YouTube video of the yellow song, and another YouTube video about the different aquatic animals. And the yellow flashcard will be there to help them, like ask them, do you know what color this is? And we'll also be shown a little small book with aquatic animals. What I will do for the directions is I will have them on the carpet, and I will be playing the YouTube video of the yellow song. And then after that, I'll gather them to the table, like 4 or 5 students, to do the small group first. And then from there, they start coloring the little worksheets, the coloring sheets. And then I'll be passing out the crayons for them to use. And they'll be coloring. And then I will ask, like, do you know what animal this is? And then where they live and what's the color of this animal? And I will also show them the color yellow, the little flashcard, and ask them what color is this little card. And then after everyone's done coloring, and all 10 little kids came to do the little activity and stuff, and they all have all done coloring, and they will put the little stickers to help decorate the little paper that they colored. And my backup plan for this is if they start to eat or throw the crayons, I will give them a little those little aquatic animals to play with, like little toys that they can play with, and ask what color that animal they're playing with is, and then and is it yellow? Is the animal that they're playing with the yellow color? And since some of them will be finishing at different times, they'll be washing hands and get ready to be playing go back to doing their free play. And then I'll get the other set of kids to come to do the activity. And to close out the lesson, we will show the little YouTube video of the yellow color again. And since there's also that part, you can sing along, we sing it, and do it also with the aquatic animals as a refresher. And then students, the toddlers can also put a little yellow sticker on the little flashcard of the aquatic animals that they like. And the worksheets that they had finished will be put into their cubbies for them to take home for that day. And like during another circle time, we will review the animals and the color yellow again for them. And since this month they're learning about aquatic animals and the color yellow, they will be being a refreshed throughout this whole week about the color yellow and the different aquatic animals. The way I will assess them, I will try to say the color yellow 5 times throughout the activity, and if I will show them a little starfish, and it most likely not all the time, but like I'll give them a little yellow starfish, and ask them, "Is this what color this is?" And then they should say it's yellow. And I will ask them to point at the little stickers that circle stickers, and they will have their worksheets to take home as part of the assessment. I will use a checklist to check how they're engaged and their responses and interaction during the activity. And I will observe them and the notes by documenting what their favorite animal is, the aquatic animal, and the words that vocab they use during the activity. And I will give them a reflection question that's asking which animals did you like and why.
So, I'm glad you said this at the end. So you said this month they're learning about yellow and the aquatic animals. So is this an extension of what they're working on already this month, like part of their work study?
The so-called the theme for this month, the whole month is yellow.
Okay.
From what I saw, this month, whole month, we're supposed to learn about aquatic animals.
Okay.
But this so-called this week, we're really starting that week of aquatic animals.
Comments, questions from anyone?
I like how you added like the yellow star one. Yeah, hello. So I think this song will help confusion and it'll get them to the word. So, or at least pronunciation the right way. So,
Yeah, songs are a great way to reinforce their.
Yeah, they like those videos of the color, and there's that one of those videos where like they're making pizzas or like coloring different things that color. They like those videos. I'm not sure if that's the one. They're like coloring something, like coloring a car red or something, and they're making a pizza of that color.
Yeah, go ahead. You're probably the same thing. But I use that. Kind of one. Find it all, like the yellow and yeah, made a connection between five animals. Yeah. Because they may do that, right. Okay, thank you. Thank you all for your feedback, and last but not least.
Okay, my grade level is positive. I put number of students. I'll do full class activity, lesson identify and express emotions. My objectives are, given a picture of an emotion, the student will correctly name the emotion. Given a picture of an emotion, the child describes how they would react to that emotion. When the teacher names an emotion, the child will be able to demonstrate that emotion with their facial expression. This falls under the understanding level. We'll start off with a song about feelings. The kids will get to dance and jump around to the song. Next, we will read the book, A Little Spot of Emotion. And this book comes with 8 plush toys as well as a song. So that's the song that we're going to be opening up with. We're going to read the book in order to transition to the activity. The book talks about all these little spots that have these different, they each have their own emotion. So after reading the book, the children will each get a toy and they will introduce it and say, this is my spot and he feels sad, or this is my spot and he feels angry. During this time, we will talk as a group about what we can do when we feel that emotion, as well as how we can help our friends when they feel this emotion. Next, we will match feelings to pictures. So the teacher will hold up pictures of different emotions and the students will name the emotions of the group. After the students match the name of the emotion to the picture, they will take turns acting out the emotion. Finally, we will review what to do when we notice a friend feeling these specific emotions, how we can help them, as well as how we can help ourselves when we're feeling these specific emotions. We will end listening to the song again. For my backup plan, if the children are uninterested in the activity, we will go back to the little spot of emotion book and plush toys, because I feel that if the child's not interested in anything, they'll at least be interested in a cute little plush toy.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah, right, yeah, yeah.
And the checklist, I just made it really simple because the children are so young. So the questions are, was the child able to connect the correct emotion with the correct picture? As well as, was the child able to explain what they would do if they notice their friend is feeling a certain emotion? And the idea would be that a teacher is filling out the checklist while the activity is taking place.
So I like, there's so much add into it too. They're making the connection. Well, of course, it all comes from the great. How would you explain to how they would help around?
We would give them different ideas of what they could do. So something that I've done in a class before where I've asked kids, what would you do if you had a friend who was very sad? And they would say, oh, I would give them a hug. I would offer to play with them. I would make them a picture. So usually kids have good responses to that, but if they don't, then I would offer a good response.
Good, nice, beautiful. Comments, questions from others? So yeah. Visuals, hands-on, sensory, so really,
Yeah, just the plushes and groups at your classroom, if you have like a Chrome quarter or something, or if the kids having a hard time identifying their emotions, they can use those and just focus on the animals, so it's a good way to incorporate the emotions, right? If they don't have like a full answer.
Yeah.
It's still like association.
yeah. Right. Anyone else? Okay, thank you both of you for doing that. And I thank all of you, if you think of our class, for being such attentive listeners and participating in sharing such great comments. Okay, we are done. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week. Keep in touch with me. We're going to yeah. We are coming to the end. And yeah, Pascal will let you know. Oh yeah. You know, something else. I know. Okay. Well, we'll just find out what her is. Well, this week I can't. I'm doing, okay, yeah, I just got a lot of observations. I think it's next. So, you know, do me a favor, email me with her availability. And we can meet right afterwards too, if you're free. Yeah. 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 Give me 1 minute. Oh, I went. Yeah, I got it. Okay. Thinking. Oh, my goodness. Right. I mean, if
Do we need to turn in the paragraph for the activity?
no, for today, what we do in class?
Yeah.
No.
Just the 5
You
hours?
Just enter it in watermark.
I also wanted to ask because
Yeah.
we can think that maybe
But,